What's going on? Fucking headphones. All right, this is going to be a tutorial, very basic for mixing if you're a beginner. I know it can be frustrating when you're a beginner once you export your mixes out and you're playing them in the car or on your phone or in speakers. They sound like shit, right? This is going to make sure that, well, this tutorial is for you if you're a beginner, and it's going to make sure that your mixes sound better in those environments on those audio systems. This is the accumulation of about a year and a half of music production skill, and I'm very much intermediate myself. I'm not claiming this to be some great tutorial, but there's a lot of good, best common practices that I'm going to show here. And if you're a beginner, you're definitely going to watch this. You're definitely going to want to watch this. So without further ado, let's get into it. And like I said before, I can't use this here to listen because I got a new piercing and it's still healing. So this is what the original mix sounds like. Few things going on here. This kick is not really fitting the scenario. Too much high end on that kick. So I'm going to chop some of this off, some of the low end off, and typically you would just want to find another kick, one that fits. Sounds a little bit better, right? Second thing, and this is actually where I should have started. Down here in Ableton, you'll see this little, almost looks like a chart. Click on this. This is going to give you this view, which you can use to level all of your sounds. Leveling, in terms of making your mixes sound good, leveling is probably the most important aspect. You can't start your mixing, getting into all the nitty-gritty details, unless you've leveled your all your elements, okay? So first element in dance music, at least, it's gonna be the kick. That's the very first element, and then the bass. Those two are like what glue. People say they glue the song together. So we're going to solo those two, and then if you want to solo another one, just hit Command on the Mac. Where's the bass? I gotta find the bass. Okay. So here's where you want to use your ears. This bass is pretty powerful. Maybe a little bit too much. Bring it in like so. Now we're going to want to bring in the next elements, okay? So we're gonna probably bring in the drums first. Okay, so you're bringing in each element one at a time and leveling them accordingly. So, pretty solid here. Very last thing is we're gonna do the main little guitar riff. We're gonna bring this up a little bit because it's the main element, so we wanna make sure it punches through. Okay, so that's basic leveling. You just want to make sure it sounds good, right? Elements that you want to bring out more, you put them to the top, right? You make them a little louder. Elements that you want to bury a little bit, make them more subtle, you put them down. You can't have everything at the same level. It's just not going to work. Your mix is going to clash. So you want to do this strategically. Also here you can do panning using these knobs. So for example, now I'm gonna leave this in mono, so just, you know, not do any panning to them. But this is definitely something that you should use if you're trying to make your mixes sound nice and wide in stereo. Next thing, we are going to EQing. Do EQing, basic EQing. Here's the kick again, and we're gonna solo the bass again. Now, one thing you always must use if you have the kick and a bass is a side chain. In layman's terms, side chaining, and you're gonna hear this a lot in your music production journey, is essentially just ducking the sound of one element when another element comes in. So the element B comes in as a trigger, and when it comes in, the sound ducks, just like that. So in this case, you know, the kick is always the most important. You want that to punch through. That's going to give your song bounce, power, right? So I just use a normal Ableton compressor, and I want to make sure this is peak. So come in here. I'll do this from the beginning, actually, to show you. Oops, I don't have my hotkeys enabled on this. Where is the compressor? All right, so you drag in the compressor, external input source. You're gonna want to set it to the kick, so that's number 3. Set this to peak. It's a subtle difference if your ears aren't trained, but this is if you're side chaining, like, you're gonna need to have this on. All right, so now, ideally, too, this kick is a little bit too long. You can see there's some overlap here with my bass lines. And this is just, these bass lines are just based on, like, the guitar. It's following the rhythm of the guitar. So ideally, you would want to sort of mask it like this so that there's no clashing. But for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to leave it like this. So here we can set the amount of ducking. So you can hear. That's what it's doing. So we're slow this again. Again, use your ears. I think that's pretty good. Next, we're going to solo. We're going to check here the EQ. I always sidechain basically all elements to the kick, even if there's no information here in the low end. This element's taking up all that high end. That's good. Maybe bring this down a little bit, so it's not that harsh on the ears. Okay. Next, what's here? This is nothing. You can bring in the snare. The song coming together. All right, we're gonna this high end is being taken up by this first element, number 5. We're going to conserve as much space here as possible, because having it here, you know, it's this little this information right here from like the super high end isn't really doing much, so we're going to cut that out. We want to save as much space as we can for other elements to come in. So you can hear all this information is not even. Okay. Now we're going to go to Serum. You can even so this is sidechain to the kick, but you could even sidechain this also to this clap right here, so that it ducks out of the way when the clap comes in. It saves you some extra space in your mix. Oops, where is external input? That's number 7. Feel the bounce. No sidechain. With sidechain, it just saves you a little bit of extra space in the frequency spectrum. Then last is the guitar. This is a bit too loud. I'll bring it down. Now maybe this Serum sound is probably a bit too loud. Check the content here. Sounds better. So one thing I didn't mention in this main mix is that the kick, we usually set it to 6. So when you're mixing, you want to leave a little bit of space so that you can push on your master. Basically, we're going to want to push the volume of all this up using a limiter. So -6 is kind of the base for your track. You want to make sure the kick overpowers everything. Set it at -6. Everything else is built around the kick. Okay, and I'll show you what we do next. You can find mastering racks online. So that's this stuff. I don't know if there's actually anything in here. Yeah, there's. Okay, we're gonna take this off. So, Swiss Army meter. This is great for getting a feel for the volume of your track. Minus, I think, 14 LUFS is what Spotify songs are. Is that how many LUFS? Spotify 14. Okay, so minus 14 are what most songs on Spotify are at. That's just the level of loudness. So we're gonna throw a limiter on here. Boom, and this is a very, very, very basic rough mix. You're gonna push this. Till it's at minus 14. Maybe a little bit less, right? And the mix isn't always going to be perfect. It's going to be, well, the LUFS is going to fluctuate, obviously, depending on how many elements are playing, etc. So yeah, very basic mixing tutorial for you guys. Hope you found it useful. I'll catch you guys later.